If you like catching a buzz from caffeine as much as catching a buzz from booze, then this episode is just for you, because we're going to be covering some classic and iconic coffee cocktails. Welcome to Cocktail Limelight. I'm your host, Erick Castro, and today I'm joined by Nick Hogan of Mover and Shaker Co. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, brothers. So today we're going to be going over some cocktails that you love. Some coffee cocktails, so you're incorporating some espresso along with some booze, and in one case, just fresh coffee with Irish whiskey. So let's talk about the inspiration and why you chose these three drinks.
Sure. So I recently quit drinking about 3 years ago. And if you've kind of dabbled in that, you kind of find other vices, and coffee was mine. So I definitely partake quite a bit of coffee, highly caffeinated at all times. But I really like to incorporate those ideas back into cocktails when I'm curating menus.
You know, I'm going to tell you flat out, I can't judge. I generally have about 5 to 6 cups of coffee a day. And I brew mine strong too.
There
So
you go.
it's probably closer to like 7 cups for some people. And like, I try to pull back. You know, I think right now I'm down to about 3 or 4 cups.
So you're going to be coffee sober.
You know, I'm telling you, I don't know if I could quit caffeine. I don't know if I would ever want to. But you know, I'm glad that you talked about you getting sober, because I think there's a misconception out there that for the bartender, in order for them to excel in their craft, that they have to drink. And I think people like you are a perfect example of why that's not true and that's not the case.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that, first of all. Yeah, for me, it was, I think we all get into the industry and, it's part of what we do is that camaraderie of drinking and taking shots, and it's a ton of fun. I think we've all done it. But for me, I took a little look at like long-term what I wanted to do, and for me, that just meant kind of cutting back on drinking, and overall, I just kind of cut it out. Everybody has their own thing they need to do, but I really think if we can openly talk about it, it helps out a lot, so.
No, I dig it, man. That's really cool. Especially, I feel like when it comes to being a great bartender, it's all about hospitality, making people feel welcome, making them something delicious to drink. Whether there's booze in that, honestly, I kind of feel like that's incidental.
Absolutely, and you can focus on that experience you're giving the guest a little bit when you have that clarity as well, so I think that's really important.
Okay, so now that we're talking about making cocktails for guests, let's get to those cocktails.
Absolutely. So we're gonna start kind of more simple, and then we're gonna move on to some more complex cocktails. But this is one of my favorites. I bartended a little bit in Tulum, Mexico a few years back.
Yeah.
And this was something that you drink before you go out. And no matter how you feel.
Like after dinner, but before drinks.
Exactly.
Or, before going out for drinks.
Exactly. So after your meal, you have this, and it kind of just kickstarts your night. It's called the CARAJILLO.
The CARAJILLO, bro.
You can pronounce it way better than me. I'm from Florida. But it's super simple. The way that we prepared it was shaken on ice. I think as a bartender, you kind of have that, you want that maximum efficiency in what you do.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get it super chilled, and then it's served kind of as a shot. So we'll just go ahead and get started.
All right.
So take our 10 jigger here. We're gonna start with 1.5 ounces of espresso. Ooh. We just prepared this, so it's pretty steamy.
And I've always prepared these with fresh espresso, but have you ever tried doing it like chilled in advance or anything? Does that improve the drink?
Yeah, I think if you want to kind of help your workflow behind the bar, I think that's a good option. Batch out a little bit beforehand, stick in the fridge, should be good to go. Or even cold brew, super concentrated may be the best option as well. This is Licor 43, vanilla, spice, a little bit of orange. Get those 2 ingredients in there. I like to do equal parts. You want that nice and strong, but also want that boozy element if you're about to go out and have some more drinks. Fill this bad boy up to the brim with ice. Got these nice cold brew cubes. Give it a nice shake. All right, so we got a frosty. We're just gonna serve this in a Nick and Nora because they're beautiful and they're named after me. Obviously, if you wanna straighten out those ice shards, you are more than welcome to. I'm gonna keep them just to give that extra chill factor at the end of there.
Look at that froth, brother. I'm telling you, it's like,
beautiful.
those shots of espresso were just pulled immediately before we started filming, so it's like you get that crema with the aeration.
Yeah.
You know what? Before I take a sip though, I want to ask, are you gonna garnish it anyway?
So these I typically wouldn't, because it's kind of like as a communal shot. So, you know, you just had your meal, you and your friends are gonna drink these and bail out to the closest dive bar and, you know, have a few shots or something.
I'm not gonna do that though, I'm gonna savor this. You know, I'm an adult, I wanna make sure that I'm appreciating the nuances of the beverage in front of me. But I will tell you, I'm extremely tempted to just slam this. But we got work to do, folks. We got work to do. All right, speaking of work, let's do the next drink. What do you got for the second drink?
So we're gonna do the classic espresso martini. So if you guys have followed our page on Mover and Shaker on Instagram, they are all the buzz right now. This is obviously, you probably know the background on this one, cocktail from the 80s, but some sort of resurgence going on. So
yeah, so the story has it that Dick Bradsell, who by the way is an iconic bartender from the UK who was essential and played a vital role in the cocktail renaissance that the world's going through now, he passed away recently. But apparently he was working at a celebrity function, like some type of gala, and an unnamed supermodel came to the bar and came up to him and said, I want you to make me a drink that's gonna pick me up and fuck me up. And allegedly, this is the cocktail that he created specifically for her.
Okay.
And the drink was called the Espresso Martini, and it since has taken the world by storm.
it lived a life of its own. Cool, we're gonna jump right into it then. Ooh. Gotta
I
love
love that
sound.
sound, you know, of the cork popping off of a glass bottle. It's amazing.
1.5 ounces of vodka, but you can bump it up to 2 if you'd like.
If you're feeling frisky, we're not gonna judge, you know?
All right, so we're going to open our 1/2 ounce of this St. George Nola Licor.
I'm salivating already.
We're gonna do 1.5 ounces of that fresh espresso. This stuff is piping hot.
But you gotta play cool for the camera,
Oh,
for the
yeah.
folks at home, even though it's just scalding your hand.
Okay, cool. And then we have a little bit of simple syrup just to add some sweetness to it. I am a personal fan of slightly sweeter cocktails. I have a sweet tooth, so it's my guilty pleasure.
You know what? No one's gonna judge you for that.
Again, we're gonna make sure this is a very frosty cocktail. You want this thing ice cold. Oh, classic. All right. Look at that color.
You know, this cocktail is experiencing a resurgence for good reason. Because this cocktail is perfect, like, you know, you could have it, you know, during happy hour if you just need a little pick-me-up before you go out. It's perfect for after dinner when you just need a little caffeine to help pick you up. This cocktail is honestly appropriate at so many different times of the evening. And maybe the morning, you know, perfect brunch cocktail. Seriously, you know, what goes better with pancakes and eggs and, you know, a little bit of coffee.
There's something about the coffee, I think, too, that pairs so well with everything. It just, like, it just works, and you don't even, like, it's like a Bloody Mary. You don't feel like you're getting the booze in the drink itself. Obviously, look at that beautiful foam as well.
You know, it has that, like, perfect, it almost looks like a Guinness type head.
Oh, yeah.
You have it garnished perfectly. I'm almost gonna feel guilty taking a sip out of it. I don't, but I almost feel guilty. Let's give it a try. Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've never had this with the St. George.
How do you like it?
It's excellent.
Nice.
Yeah, it's excellent. It gives it almost like a more earthy vegetable type of flavor to it, which I didn't really think was
They do
possible
some
in
insane
espresso
stuff
martini.
there.
All right, brother, so you hit me with 2 bangers, 2 cocktails that are chilled and served up. Now I understand you're gonna give me a hot drink?
Yeah, so we're gonna do an Irish coffee, which, as you may know, is an iconic staple of some very famous New York bars, namely
San
the
Francisco
Dead
bars,
Rabbit.
too.
Definitely. Sorry, I'm thinking East Coast.
Yeah, yeah.
You're West Coast. But yeah, we want to do we have our espresso cocktail, so we're gonna do a coffee cocktail as well.
Oh, I love it, brother. I'm gonna tell you a funny story. I used to go to the Buena Vista in San Francisco all the time. It's just, you know, whenever bartenders would come from out of town, we would always be sure to pop in there. And I remember talking to the bartender once, and we were asking the bartender, what's the record on Irish coffees for somebody to drink at one
Oh
city?
my God.
And the bartender didn't even flinch. He said 32.
32?
32. And we all looked at each other, and the first thing we all said almost in unison was like, damn, man, that's a lot of caffeine.
Yeah.
And the bartender said, before the Irish whiskey. And the bartender told us, like, oh, he switched to decaf on the second one.
Okay.
But there's still a decent amount of caffeine in decaf.
Really?
I mean, it adds up.
Okay.
It adds up.
Know that.
Over the course of 32 of them, it would definitely add up, in addition to the Irish whiskey.
For sure.
But
that's insane.
Yeah, so to me, I know it wasn't invented there, but to me, I just always associate the Buena Vista with Irish coffee, and so it's just like, it's just scratched into my mind.
Absolutely.
And I always think about that guy. Apparently, I guess it was an Italian tourist who showed up in the morning.
Oh my
and
gosh.
he drank
Just had
them
a
until
field day.
closing. So it's like it's not like he just pounded them all in a row. He just like spaced them out over the course of like 16 hours.
Casually.
Which I'm not saying is a responsible thing for any of you to attempt. Please don't. All right, so brother, enough chit chat. Let's go ahead and make one.
Sweet. Yeah, this one again is super simple. Start with our glass. We're going to grab some Irish whiskey.
Ooh.
We're gonna do 1.5 ounce pour again. Then we'll jump right into the coffee. So they say about 4 ounces. We're gonna pour it directly in there. Leave a little space for that cream on the top. And then we're gonna do just a touch of simple syrup again.
And then about how much was that? That was a half ounce, it looked like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Between 1/4 and 1/2, depending on your sweetness level.
And it's totally up to you. That's the beauty of this drink. However much sugar you like in your coffee, go for it here.
No judgment.
No judgment. So all right, brother, right now we have hot coffee, Irish whiskey, a little bit of sugar, and now I understand you're gonna hit it with the last component, which really, in my eyes, I kind of feel like really brings the drink alive.
Oh, absolutely. A little bit of heavy whipping cream. We're gonna hand whip it. I have some cocktail springs here, so we're gonna toss that in the tin as well to help froth it up, really break those proteins, and then pour it over the coffee and really set this thing off right.
Yeah, because it really gives the drink texture, and you get that contrast of hot and cold.
Cool, well, let's get into it. So we're gonna pour our cream in.
And one thing I do want to stress, this isn't milk. This isn't low-fat milk. This isn't half and half. This is heavy whipping cream, which is why it's cream that's about to be whipped.
And since we do have a hot cocktail, we don't want to toss in that cube to chill it. We're just going to use this spring instead. It's kind of
nice and
kind of the thought process behind it.
Yeah.
It's the montage. It's going to be like a minute of me shaking and fast forward.
Now that you're done shaking it, let's go ahead and see your handiwork.
Sweet.
As it drifts and blankets the surface of this cocktail. Oh, look at that. Oh, brother, that looks very, very tasty. Now that you've got the cream floating beautifully on top of this hot drink, the nice contrast of hot versus cold, I understand you're gonna hit it with a little bit of nutmeg now?
Oh yeah, for aromatics. Just apply it liberally.
Oh, that's beautiful. And the thing I love about it is that, using the fresh grated nutmeg doesn't take that much longer than just grabbing, the stuff that was powdered like 5 years ago that you just had in your cabinet. You gotta go for the fresh stuff here.
Way
folks.
more potent.
Use the fresh stuff when you can. It's tasty, my friend.
Mustache
You know
approves.
what? I have the whole got milk thing going on right now on my face. My mustache is gonna smell like dairy for the next 3 days. But you know what? I don't care. It's worth it. All right, brother. Well, you just hit us with 3 classic bangers, 3 iconic drinks that I feel like every bartender should know how to make. But now that I got that out of the way and that we've covered these drinks, if somebody wanted to learn more about you and what you do over at Mover and Shaker Co., what's the best place to learn?
Yeah, absolutely. You can hit us up on Instagram at Mover and Shaker Co. or our website, moverandshakerco.com. And personally, I'm Bold City Bourbon on Instagram.
Now my question for all of you out there, are there any coffee cocktails that we forgot to make? Any coffee cocktails that you think we should be covering on a future episode? Well, if so, leave in the comments below and maybe we'll be featured on an upcoming episode of Cocktail Limelight. And with that said, be sure to muddle that like and subscribe button. And if you'd like to dive deeper into World of Craft Cocktails, be sure to check out the Bartender at Large podcast, which I host over on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere else where quality podcasts are found. And with that said, Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you again next week.